Welcome to the Color Up Monday through Friday podcast. I'm your host, Christy Lime, and this is where actionable accountability meets motivation. Today, I am super honored to have James Brackin with us. He's a personal growth coach. He has a podcast called the You Can Too podcast. He's also an active growth coach, inspiring his clients to be motivated and take action toward their dream life. So James, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Christy, I'm so glad you asked. We've been talking for so long, and I'm so excited to be on here to provide some value.
Absolutely. Well, I know with our podcast, we talk a lot about taking action and creating that accountability, really the self-accountability and the motivation. And you inspire me every day. You're 18, crushing your goals. You're working, you're becoming a coach. You are a coach. You just got another client. Tell us about your growth journey. I'm so excited to hear about it and for you to share with our audience today.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, we both joined the same coaching program to become coaches, and it was an amazing investment into ourselves that I definitely feel changed my life. And in that, I genuinely didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know I was becoming a coach. I knew that what I wanted to do was help people, and I knew that I feel like I had the voice to do it. I had the knowledge, what I went through as a child, and I just felt like I had something to say to help other people. And so I acted on it. I invested a lot of money into myself, not really knowing what was going on, but I knew it felt aligned with what changes I want to make to this world.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you want to make changes in this world?
Absolutely. So as you said, my podcast is called the You Can Too podcast. And I feel all too often with societal constructs and just the way that we're brought up is that we're just told to go to college or to live a 9-to-5 job and just to do what is normal, I guess. And I don't want to be that way. And I think a lot of people don't want to be that way. And so my podcast, my whole part in being here is to prove to people that they can too, that if I'm 18 years old and I didn't go to college and now I'm a coach inspiring others to do things outside of their comfort zone, that the reason I'm here is to prove them to themselves that they can do it.
Absolutely. Your podcast is so inspiring too. You really bring in the psychology and the physiology side of things and bring in the science-backed information so that it's really impactful. So when you're speaking at this level to people, what is it that how can your story relate to them, and how can you help them transform into the person they want to be?
Absolutely. I think, again, all too often we're kind of pushed in a sense of going to college or of finding a trade, something that's not very unique in a sense. And that's the way I'll use it. But for me, I just didn't really want to go in that way. And I felt that being 18 years old, I was going to be a real estate agent. And I invested money and spent months and months just finishing that course so that by the time I was 18, that's what I was going to do. And then literally a week before I was ready to take the test to become one, I invested the money into myself to become a coach. And so as outlandish as that seems, it kind of represents everything that we talk about, and that is taking action before you're ready. And not really having everything figured out and just doing it because it feels what's meant for you. And I think, I don't remember the quote, what it was, but when you do something, you feel that intuition, it's like God talking to you. And I felt that in that moment, and I just knew that it felt right for me. And I know that, again, being 18 years old, there's not many coaches out there that are my age. So I see that if I'm able to help my clients at the level I am, I think just the bigger I get, the more people I can help, the more change that, and the more it'll inspire others to do the same.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And, you say you have this unique approach because you are 18. So when you're coming through and you're showing up and you bring your intuition and your knowledge, how are you able to stay so powerful in that? Because being so young, I'm sure you're getting these, hey, you're so young, you're so young, you're so young, but you're showing up and you're still taking that action. And I'm curious how you stay in alignment with that action.
Absolutely. That's a great question. That's an amazing question. I think, as we talk about often, is our limiting beliefs hold us back in most of our life. And in the beginning of my personal growth journey, I didn't even know what a limiting belief was. So I had so many that were holding me back. And once I realized that we live by our beliefs. And if our beliefs aren't serving us, then we just have to interrupt those beliefs and live by different beliefs that do serve us into the life we do want to live. And that was a limiting belief I had, that I was young and that I just couldn't get any clients, that I wasn't going to be able to help anyone. And I spoke to a couple other coaches and kind of gained a different perspective on my situation, seen it as me being 18 is like the biggest power I do have. I'm able to help. I have a 9-year-old client. I have a 25-year-old client. I have a 43-year-old client. Like the age limit I'm able to reach is unlike most people. And so I can use that to my advantage, or I can use that against me. And I'm holding a coin right now that's the obstacle is the way. And
I love that.
I'm a huge Ryan Holiday fan, and especially that book. And I always seen that as an obstacle, my age as an obstacle. And I found a way to make it a way.
I absolutely love that. Okay, so for our audience, can you define what you kind of went into your limiting beliefs, but what would you say is a generic explanation of a limiting belief?
A limiting belief is something that you live your life through that may not serve you in the best way, I guess I could say, that holds you back from becoming and doing more than you have in the past. And that's a very not great way to explain it, but a limiting belief is something that you live by and that just might not be serving you. It's a belief that you live life through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was a great way to explain it. It's a perspective that we've kind of placed on ourselves, and it's limiting ourselves, and that belief is the story we continue to tell ourselves. And so what I love is that you're saying you're showing up and doing the work, you're taking the action, and by doing so you're able to overcome those limiting beliefs in such a powerful way and impact others along the way. So that's absolutely inspiring. I love that, James.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. So as you're going, we kind of joined this coaching community around the same time. This was last summer. And what kind of growth and transformation have you seen since then? It hasn't even quite been a year since I've known you, but I've seen so much growth and transformation. I've got the privilege to meet you in January. So I'm just curious, like, how has the journey been through the growth of stepping into being a coach?
Another amazing question. And I definitely am so glad that we met in January. It was an amazing time. I think for me, a real big thing that I live by is that belief drives behavior. And early in my personal growth journey, early in becoming a coach, I didn't have too much belief. And I had a lot of those limiting beliefs that held me back. And something that I've heard from a lot of coaches in our coaching community and that they see about me is that I'm very persistent. And it's something that I guess I recognized throughout my life, but it wasn't just something, it was just what was normal to me. It was just like, if I'm going after something, I'm going to go all in on it. If I'm going to help people, I'm going to help as many people as I can. And so that just seemed normal to me. But it kind of proved to me that every day that I showed up for myself when I didn't really feel like it, as we talk about taking action, it just kind of added those votes up. And every single day, every single month, it wasn't just adding up anymore. It was multiplying, it was compounding. And I think you talk about that a lot too. And I think it's an amazing way to look at things. And when you just start showing up, and I think really for me, something that I've recognized is that consistency is pretty much all you need.
Mm, absolutely. So let's break that down a little bit, because consistency is so important. But if we're not consistent, or if we're consistently doing something that's not getting us further ahead,
Yeah.
so how can we decide what is it we should be consistent in those actions with? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel it might depend on like in what area of your life you're trying to kind of be consistent in. So for example, like the gym, I think that's an easy representation. If you're trying to be consistent in the gym, you can be consistent and show up maybe 5 minutes a day, and that's consistent. And after doing it 5 minutes a day, you're just going to want to stay longer. That's kind of something like once you just create the habit. Man, I was just listening to a book as well. It might have been The One Thing by Gary Keller. And pretty much, we don't really have to have that much discipline. We just have to have enough discipline to make it a habit. And then once it's a habit, it's habitual. And then we just do it just because that's just what we do. We're in 95% of the time, we're on autopilot. So once we just make it a habit, just make it something that we just generically do, then it doesn't seem so strenuous to do it.
I love that. You know, I talk a lot about habits and routines, and it's creating that micro change that gets us so much closer to our dream life. And it's the consistency of, okay, I'm here for 5 minutes. It was hard to get here, but now that I'm here, I might as well just add a few more minutes. And then it just compounds over time to get you closer and closer. So I absolutely love that. And what I also love, James, is you're constantly reading, you're constantly intaking knowledge from people further in their journey and just absorbing and then putting it back out there. So this is kind of like a one-off question maybe, but how many books have you read in 2022? I feel like you're always reading.
You're right on that. You're definitely right on that. To be completely honest, I'm not sure. It's probably in the 20s, which is, I think I read something that the average CEO reads about 50 books, 52 books a year. So about a book a week. And I was like, well, last year, 2021, I ended up starting reading in the way late into the year. And I read about like 12 books. And I was like, well, if I can read 12 books in that time, and then I kind of found a cheat code, and I'll give it to your audience. I listen to audiobooks as well. I listen to books, I read books, but I listen to audiobooks for most of the time now. And what I do is that when I'm at the gym, sometimes you don't always feel like going to the gym. If you enjoy books, I think this is a cheat code for you. I go to the gym and now I listen to books while I'm at the gym. So that's one, it makes me want to stay longer in general, but I read my books at ×2 speed. So I get done with a 5-hour book in maybe a day, maybe 2 days, rather than taking a couple months to get it done. And so I'm able to read a lot more books than probably the average person, but I'm very, very focused on reading it. I think something else to take away is that you can read all the books in the world, but if you don't actually take the knowledge, it doesn't matter. And so something that I will add on to that is that I always take notes regardless if I'm at the gym. Instead of looking at my phone to go on Instagram or TikTok between sets, I'm writing my notes down. And so I'm always gaining something from it. But I would say probably around 20 or so. I definitely want to get to 50, but I think I'll beat that goal.
I love that. Absolutely. And that comes back to just holding yourself accountable and taking that consistent action. And I have heard that quote. I think it is a book a week what the average CEO reads and or listens to. So I think that's important. And I love that you take that with you to the gym. Most people will listen to the music so they can get the hype up, but you're like, no, I already love the gym. I'm going to continue to build and create that net time, so that no extra time, and really just being intentional with your time because you know it's super valuable. And as you're already taking all that action, it's very inspiring. I love all of that. So if we're looking at your journey here and you're transforming and now you're putting your knowledge back out there through your podcast and through your coaching services, what's the number one tip you have for your clients and or for our audience today?
Man, I would have to say that's a really good question. That's an amazing question, Christy. I think something that I've been focusing on recently with my clients is living in the gap, or living in the gain, not the gap. And what I mean by that is it's a book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan. And I coach pretty much overachievers, people that are always striving to become, to do more, to become more, and to achieve more. And I think most of us are like that, but some of us have more of a desire to do so. And so living in the gap is basing yourself off an ideal. So kind of comparing yourself off of where you'd like to be rather than really appreciating where you are. And instead, where we should be is living in the gain, where how far we've came and how much we've done this far. And I think a lot of people live their lives living in the gap, living in where they could be, living in where they quote unquote should be. And I think that creates a lot of resentment towards what they've done, who they are, and what they've achieved. And I think a lot of happiness, a lot of peace and fulfillment will be found when they just appreciate how far they've come. So I think even just adding on to that is just living in the moment, living now.
That was beautiful. That was special. I'm curious, how can people be living more in the moment, living in the now, living in the gain? Because I think you're absolutely correct. So many people are showing up as I should be here. I'm too old to do this. I'm too young to do this. I'm to this, I'm to that, I could never do that. And so how can people be more intentional with where they are right now and be happy and confident in these moments that they are right now and appreciate
Absolutely. You're great at these questions. Why we're
it?
I think for a big part of it, and something that I don't want to say I neglected, but I definitely was hesitant to get into it, but meditation. I think meditation is something, those are the two things I do every morning. I meditate and then I read. And I think both of those even is an amazing way, an amazing my outlet to live in the now. But also something that I have every one of my clients do. And this is literally like, if I have them do anything, this is a staple, and it's to get on a walk. Simple, just to get on a walk, get in nature, and just make that something you do every single day. And when you actively do that, I promise you, everyone that's listening, you will find so much presence, so much peace, so much serenity, and just being present in the moment. Because we leave so much of our happiness and our fulfillment off of something outside of us, and that just creates a lot of disappointment.
Mm, that's golden. And I'm just curious, I don't talk a lot about meditation on my podcast, but I also do meditate. I'm curious, James, do you meditate with guided meditation or do you do self-guided?
Um, so I have multiple different forms of meditation, but my main recently has been visualization meditation. Um, However, because I'm reading a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, if you guys look it up, it's like an 11-hour book, but it's an amazing book. I definitely recommend it. Just to put that out there. But that's been my main focus. But I think something to live in the present, live in the moment. I think either would work really. I think it's just gaining that moment to clear your mind and allow yourself to not attach to your thoughts and just watch them flow, because we often attach them.
Mm, that's powerful. And oftentimes I feel like people think that they're too busy to meditate or they're too busy to go on a walk. But what's interesting, and I think you would attest to this as well, is that when you create the time to do that and you're intentional in it, your life just can almost like a rocket ship take off because you're allowing that space for the creativity and your mind to just be versus thinking you have to be all the things. So I think that's very, very powerful. I love that. And I'm curious, if you were to give a tip on how someone could find success in their life, what would that look like?
Well, first I'd start by asking the question and having them ask the question is, what do you find as success?
Powerful. Because everybody has a different reason for being or a different why or exactly like what is their definition of that?
Yeah, I think it's important to define what success is, because in society we're kind of thrown at what success is, like having these external tangible things that we can get, like when I get this car, when I get this house, or once I hit retirement and I move to this place that I want to get to, is like that's success. But that doesn't have to be success. Whatever success is, whatever we desire it to be, whatever we place meaning on to be success. So like for me, I think I'm successful. I'm not nearly to where I want to be, but I'm successful because I'm doing what I genuinely want to do. So I find success in that. However, my definition of success is being able to do whatever I want with whoever I want, whenever I want. I'm not there yet, but I'm on the path to do that. And I think something I talk about my clients often is the journey is the destination. If you're on a journey, that's the destination. If you climb up a hill, at the top of the hill, you're going to end up walking back down that hill. There's no destination. The journey is.
Hmm. I love that. That's so good, James. And, you're bringing in this context of being so present in the moment with the consistency of getting toward that success, whatever it looks like for you. And I think that's what is so beautiful about life is that we all have a different definition of success. And with the right guidance and the right mentorship and the right community, you can find that and you can expedite that as long as we continue to take that action and hold ourselves accountable. So that's absolutely stunning. So I'm curious. I think that answers all of my questions for today, but I'm just curious, like, what, if there's anything else you'd love to share with the audience today about your journey of transformation and growth and or success? And I'm just curious if anything else comes to mind for you.
I think just to leave it off as is my podcast, what I stand for, just in general, is like believing that you can too, right? Throughout most of my life, I didn't believe I could. I didn't believe I was like capable. I didn't believe I was worthy of achieving more because I grew up with that. And I think a lot of people grow up with that, but they leave those deep seated beliefs in themselves and they never go after what they truly want. They never really act in accordance to who they authentically are. I think biggest tip I could say, or biggest, I guess, yeah, biggest tip is just be you. Everyone's different for a reason. If you just be your unique self and just be who you are, I think that's what's going to make you stand out. That's what's going to make you feel aligned with what you truly should do.
I love that. Absolutely. And I would say our mentor, our coach together, Rob Dial, right? He talks a lot about that. He says, be authentically you. Don't try to be anybody else because we're all unique in our own ways. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. So James, I appreciate your time today. This has been absolutely amazing. We're going to keep it short and succinct for our audience today so they can listen to it on the go, but I would love for them to be able to find you. So if you could tell us where they can get more information on James and how they might be able to connect with you more, please let us hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you can all find me at James Brackin IV. I'm the fourth. And for my podcast, you've said it, the You Can Too podcast. And then outside of that, that's it. That's it. It's all me.
Cool. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate your time. So does the audience. This has been eye-opening. We're going to continue to take that action and see where life goes and hopefully have you back in the future on this podcast. So thank you, James.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I would love to.